You put in the work, you hold the faith, you play strictly by the rules, and your reward is absolutely nothing. The physical exhaustion of hauling back empty fiber after months of labor is crushing. We live in a culture that expects an immediate return on investment. You put $1 in, you get $1 out. When that logic fails in our personal lives, the lack of results feels like a personal flaw. We assume we are broken. This specific kind of faithful failure is a very old human experience. Think of the biblical story of Simon Peter. He was a professional fisherman who spent a grueling, freezing night casting his nets into the sea, only to haul up empty water. In Launch Your Nets Again, author John Ndayisaba maps out the psychological space between your labor and the reward you expected. He focuses on the specific internal shifts needed to daringly believe again after periods of silence and failure. Ndayisaba argues that hitting a dead end is not a permanent stop. It is a required phase of preparation. To get through it, we have to dismantle the 3 main obstacles blocking our path: the silence, the delay, and the wounds we pick up along the way. The first obstacle is the silence. You plan, you work, you ask for guidance, and the universe provides zero feedback. The stillness itself becomes physically painful. Ndayisaba reframes this quiet period as an active, highly structured environment. It is the specific space where preparation happens. Ndayisaba points to the 400 years between the Old and New Testaments. There were no prophets and no new writings, yet beneath that surface, regional infrastructure was being built. Roads were constructed and empires shifted to set stage for what came next. Those barren, quiet seasons function the exact same way in our own lives. They are the required soil for cultivating enduring trust, which holds far stronger than the shallow faith we rely on when everything goes our way. Sitting through that stillness is your first real test of resilience. It turns the act of waiting from a state of passive resignation into a period of active emotional growth. Once you learn to endure the silence, you hit the second obstacle. Suddenly, you feel a counterintuitive pull to take action again, exactly when it makes zero logical sense to do so. After a failure, human logic and survival instincts tell us to retreat to safety and stay there. Spiritual resilience demands we step back into the exact same turbulent waters where we failed the first time. The only way to survive this paradox is to separate the act of moving forward from the expectation of an immediate, visible reward. You take the step simply because it is the right step to take. Surrendering the need for a guaranteed outcome removes the specific pressure to maintain a performance-based identity. You no longer have to prove your worth through the size of the catch. Progress in this framework has nothing to do with the size of your immediate catch. It is measured entirely by the quiet courage it takes to act again, despite the paralyzing fear that you might pull up an empty net twice. Even as you start moving forward, you have to deal with the aftermath. Long periods of waiting and failing leave lingering emotional scars. We often absorb a cultural myth that tells us we must be completely healed, perfectly fixed, and free of all baggage before we can pursue our purpose or be of any use to others. Ndayisaba argues the opposite. Real progress usually requires moving forward with a limp. Carrying a wound or bearing visible, jagged damage does not mean your journey is over. Imperfect healing actually serves a highly practical purpose. On one side, it prevents personal arrogance. On the other, it creates an intensely empathetic testimony. People in pain do not trust perfection. They trust survival. The wound doesn't disqualify you from the rest of your life. Those scars become the essential credentials that validate your resilience to the world around you. Eventually, the long delay ends. The breakthrough arrives. But the final hurdle you face is how your psyche actually processes that success. Many people experience blessing guilt. After surviving prolonged periods of suffering, sudden joy feels suspicious. You might feel a quiet sense of unworthiness, or worry that celebrating betrays the pain you just survived. It requires a surprising amount of emotional discipline and genuine courage to fully accept a blessing and step into it without shrinking back. Looking back, the silence, the unexpected delays, and the wounds function as architectural tools. They build the structural capacity required to hold the weight of the reward when it arrives. If you are currently standing exhausted at the water's edge, John Ndayisaba's Launch Your Nets Again offers the permission you need to trust the true author of your story, grab your heavy gear, and step back into the